Good morning, everybody. So I'll just start with a very brief apology and a point of clarification. This webinar was advertised as having Paul Harris involved as our guest expert, but regrettably, after having to postpone once already, his health hasn't allowed him to be with us today, and so he's not able to take part on this occasion. Nevertheless, we really hope that the conversation that we have today will be interesting and thought-provoking, and we hope that it will make you challenge your own effectiveness and, of course, that of the team around you. There will still be important take-home messages, and it's a great opportunity to hear how Matt has sort of navigated the journey from starting out as a part of a farm team, as a farm worker, to managing multiple people across multiple units. So welcome to this AHDB Dairy webinar. I'm Jamie McCoy. I'm one of the AHDB Dairy team. I work in Wales, and I also worked on a time management campaign a while back. So we were really keen to help farmers better manage their time in order to improve their efficiency and productivity. But also, really importantly, we wanted to encourage people to take time away from the farm as well, not just to work harder. So we'll cover more on that later. So I guess I really want to start this webinar with that notion that, working harder doesn't always increase your productivity, and that as an industry, we really should be working towards working smarter. And somebody actually pointed out to me really recently that working hard and achieving a really thriving business is hugely impressive, but actually achieving a really thriving business and not working quite as hard is actually much more impressive. And I think that we really need to keep that in mind as an industry. In agriculture, we often wear working hard as a badge of honour, and what we should probably take pride in doing is the right job at the right time to get the right outcome. So today I'm joined by Matthew Jackson, who farms in Penllech Bach, which is one of the AHDB strategic dairy farms, but he also farms across multiple other sites in Wales, and we'll probably touch on those a little more today than we have with other strategic farm meetings so far. His businesses include non-farm investments too, and Matthew is a very busy man. But more important than the fact that he's busy is that he's a very productive person. And I suppose that's what we're going to try and focus on today. So morning, Matt, welcome.
Morning, you okay, Jamie?
Yeah, good, thank you. So before we get underway, we'll just cover a little bit of housekeeping and say thank you to Emily, who's working away in the background with us and did a lot of work on preparing the slides for us. So general housekeeping. All of attendees are muted, so we can't hear you. You have an opportunity to ask questions, and we'll make it as interactive as possible as we go through. So I'll pose your questions to Matthew as we go. To ask a question, there is a small arrow in an orange box in the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you click that, it pops out a box. If you scroll down, there is a little icon that says questions, and there's a box there where you can type your questions. A recording of this session will be available on YouTube afterwards, so if there's anything that you wanted to look over again, then you'll be able to do so. We're happy to take questions as we go through. Mae croeso i chi gofyn cwestiynau yn Cymraeg neu Saesneg, so you're welcome to ask questions in Welsh or in English, although the language of the webinar today will be in English. So, Matt, before we get into sort of the real meat of personal effectiveness and time management and team management, how's things going in Penllech? You're a spring block carver, so you'll be on some seasonal jobs, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's very good. It's very good. Cows are milking well. They're still doing typically about 1.3 solids, about 14 litres high fat and proteins. Couple of kilos of meals going in, better silage than normal, I would say. And we don't actually have any heifers this year. We've got some second calvers, but no first calvers. So no, they're going really good. To be honest, normally we'd be looking at drying off on the 10th to give them 45 to 50 days, maybe a bit more. Cows are in real good nick, and probably they're milking so well this year. I feel like I don't want to dry them off type of thing, but I've got to. So I think I'll probably go on once a day for a week to 10 days just to slow them down. They're still actually grazing. First time ever they've been out this time of year on this farm. And that's down to the fact that we did some drainage this year, 8 paddocks. We thought the farm was actually drained initially. 8 years on, I'm finding out that the fields have never been drained on certain places. And the difference between actually spending that money and grazing out is unbelievable. And it's just made everybody so happy, and the cows much more happy as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fab. So interesting you're saying that your silage is good, because I think across sort of general industry we've seen some relatively low proteins in silages. So have you done something different this year?
I think with the late spring we didn't get the crops that we were expecting. So normally I'd go for sort of heavy crops, and we're in a real good grass growing area, and it's from good fertile ground. So we grow a lot of heavy crops of silage, I suppose. So before I turn around, I think, oh yeah, we're about 4 weeks. I think we'll give it another week or 10 days, and before long it's gone to head and it's passed me by. This year in particular, we just cut it earlier and made sure, and that was due to having a guy out with AHDB actually looking at stuff what we were doing and having a chat through the process pre-silage making, you know. That's been quite beneficial.
Yeah. Oh, fab. And then drying off, are you drying off to service dates, or you pick a date and everything gets dried off at once?
I typically dry off at once. I don't know, I'm not into sort of the nitty gritty stuff really. I should be more, but I suppose what we're doing at the minute seems to be head down and arse up. So we're trying to make things simple and efficient, and so there's stages, you know, basic stages that everybody knows this is exactly what happens at this time of the year, and bang, 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 and it all gets done together. Yeah, I've been questioning this year whether we should be doing dry on late cows and keeping empty cows and so forth. But do you know what? Like Bethan that works here with me full time, she's looking forward to drying these cows off. So why would I spoil that for her, sort of thing?
Yeah, that is. So, just across all the farms, are you calving at the same time on all the farms, or is that staggered, and therefore is drying off also staggered?
There's probably about 10 days difference between the farms, to be honest. And that's happened a little bit by default as to when we started milking. Okay. And we probably going on from now, we should be looking at more rainfall on the different units, because we're by the Cambrian Mountains, and then you've got down by Llandalo, you get more rain down there than you would say in Aberaeron or here even. So we need to start looking at stuff like that and actually being more strategic in what we're doing. But at the moment, we know what we like doing. All the people that are working for us so far, they like spring calving. They don't want, I think typically as spring calvers, and I might say this out of term, but I don't think we're very good at milking cows in sheds, because I don't think we enjoy milking cows out of sheds. So I think we need to get better at that. So they all typically want to get cows out early and cows in late, yeah? So there's something we need to look at and adjust, but it's, you know, it's slowly catch a monkey, because really I don't want to go chucking and changing different things with people that enjoy what they do. So I know it's a business, but at the same time, we've got to make sure those people are enjoying what they do and they're happy doing what they do, and that's crucial to me. And I think that's what's coming first in my mind at all times, how to make sure people are happy, they want to stay with us, whether that's monetary or whether that's just a thank you at the end of the day, and just realizing and making them feel appreciated. So I think that comes down, I think that has got a lot of influence on the calving pattern and so forth. But we need to look at it more. We need to look at it more. As you know, in the last 3 years, we've done so much in such a short period of time. You know, I'm prioritising at the moment, prioritising what needs to be done. I'm running away with it, dear Jamie.
Yeah, okay. Well, perfect. And we're going to come back to that question around, you know, what is important to people and how do you work out what's important to people and how do they sort of then get the best from your business as in order for you to get the best from them in your business. So we'll come back to that. And yeah, just before we move on, we have got a bit of a map to show where the farms are, and I think some of that rainfall stuff will perhaps come out a little bit more in that conversation. But before we get into that, can you maybe just tell us really briefly about how you came into farming? I know it's not the main point of today's webinar, but I think it perhaps does give some important context around maybe your attitude and maybe why you think how you do.
So I grew up and was schooled in Manchester. Completely different sort of contrast to where we are now. Mum and dad had a shop in Manchester. My dad then worked they had it for about 10 years, like a grocery shop, if you like, quite a big one. My granddad, he had a fruit and veg business in Manchester wholesale market, so there's always been like a good work ethic as opposed to our family and such, you know. Used to come on holidays to Wales camping, to Porthescadden farm with a guy called Gary. And he's still like, you know, he's like a second dad to me today. He watches everything I'm doing. He takes an interest in everything I'm doing still. So he's only 2 miles down the road from me. I left school at 15, didn't take any GCSEs. I didn't really enjoy school. And after a bit of arguing with my mum and dad, they said, well, yeah, you can go for 4 months to Wales. And I ended up going to stay with Gary and his wife, Caris, and their kids. At 16, I suppose that's where the passion for it, sort of my love for farming began. He had 30 odd milking cows through a parlour where you chained them up, like a breast parlour. He chained them up, fed them with a bucket and so forth. And it was just, I don't know, it was just, I just loved being away from like the busyness, and it was just different. So that's where it all started. And then from then I went and worked for a guy locally. I had a little scooter I went round on. I worked for a guy locally doing stone walling, fencing, sheep shearing, wool pressing, all sorts of stuff. Went to New Zealand in 2000 when I was 16, and I've been back 3 times since, basically learning about dairy farming, if you like.
Wow. And that's a variety of experience there that I guess you draw on every day now still.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah, I don't necessarily feel like I'm practically busy. I don't know why that is, because I suppose to some people I am busy, but physically, is it from a physical sense, I'm putting weight on, I'm not losing weight. Yeah.
Thriving.
I don't know, thriving or driving, maybe driving past McDonald's.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I've actually had a question come in for you already, Matt, which we'll take. So how do you balance what makes you happy and what makes your team happy?
So I suppose working for other people previously and for good people, you sort of get to know. And I worked for one other person before I came to Wales, and I don't know. I suppose that makes you feel like you sort of get to know the right way how you want to be treated and how you treat other people. That's a big part of it when it comes into it. Sometimes you can feel yourself really frustrated and that you'd like to shout really, but you just take a step back and think. And I suppose I think to myself a lot about how someone's going to react to how I'm talking to them. And I travel a lot, so I think about things like this a lot. When I'm on the road, so what makes me happy and what makes other people happy, in a sense, I suppose for me mentally, it's being motivated. I constantly have to have a challenge. And if I don't have a challenge, I sort of feel like I'm bored and I'm going backwards a little bit. Not necessarily backwards financially or anything, just within myself. So I suppose it's making sure that other people feel challenged at the same way. Not everybody's like me though. You know, John Furnival, who I'm in partnership with, always says to me, not everyone is you. You know, not everyone wants to take on everything. And people are different. So you've got to constantly remember that when I employ someone, I start talking to them as if they're going to be share farming as if they want to be rearing calves, as if I find them a piece of ground and all the rest of it, and I'm dead enthused by it, and I hope they are, but they might just want to plod along for the next 20 years on a farm, just earning their wage. Do you know, it might be nothing to do with calves or like monetary progress or anything like that, financial progress. It might just be personal progress that they want. They just want to learn. They enjoy, what's the word for it?
Stability. I don't know. I'd chuck that one in there. I mean, I feel as though some people do want stability.
Yeah, stability, and they like doing the same thing each day. Routine. They enjoy routine, whereas I hate routine. I love everything changing daily, and drama and all that sort of stuff comes with it.
Excellent. Right, we'll go on to some slides then, so that people can see, you know, what it is that you're actually managing then. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to talk us through, as this builds, sort of what you've got, and in terms of businesses where, you know, number of cows, but most importantly, the people that are involved.
I'm just trying to have a look at it. So basically, we're on the same peninsula, on the little arm that sticks out in Pwllheli, and that's where I am 50-50 share farming with a landowner, David Wynne Finch. I've been here for 8 years. We're currently on 300 cows. We have been up to 500 cows here previously when we were trying to ramp up numbers in order to offload onto a new farm. So that was the point of, right, I want another farm. I'd been to New Zealand looking at like farm expansion, second units, so forth like that. And then what I did in order to push myself to do it, I started lifting numbers. So by default, I had to get rid of those cows because it was virtually impossible to milk that many cows on the land we had. So that was something that was triggering just to get out there and find it and do it regardless. So we're 100 hectares, 300 cows. Spring calving, 24th of Jan to the 1st of Feb, we start calving here. We have Bethan, who is full-time. Bethan started here at 16, she's 18 now. She's bloody fantastic. She's just tough, really tough, and doesn't shy away from any jobs. And she's just a bloody good example of someone that wants to work and get somewhere in life. And then I've got Sophie. Sophie had actually worked for us previously. Now she's like a relief staff, if you like. She's got 2 young kids. And then there's myself. And I suppose I look at myself in this business as I'm the manager. I have to show my value, essentially, because I'm a 50-50 share farmer. So if I basically get another full-time manager here and I'm not hands-on at all, then my job becomes obsolete. And David Wynne Finch will think, well, why the hell am I having you here when I don't need you here anymore? So that's why I feel that I am a full-time hands-on farmer for 6 months of the year on this farm, and then I'm part-time onwards. So from the 24th of Jan, I will milk virtually, if not every single morning, up to the day we finish mating, without a lie-in or days off. And I feel that you've got the cows calved, you make sure they're clean, you get them back in calf, and then all it is milking, and away you go, basically. So you get them really important 3 or 4 things in place to make sure your empty rates are right, your cows are setting up on the right weight for the set up for the season, and making sure the grass is correct. And then every week I measure the grass, or Bethan will come with me. She hasn't been doing a lot of that, to be perfectly honest, but it's something I need to spend more time with her on. So it's been a push for the last 3 years, because every year we've been calving, I've been going and setting up farms sat on dumpers. As soon as we finish in April, calving, second week of April, I've been off, and then I'm basically picking cows out every day for AI, and then I'm straight on the road going to drive a dumper sort of thing. So it's been busy. So I feel like we're having a little bit of consolidation, or possibly we might do next year. That's what we need, really. If I can stomach that, and I will start making sure that Bethan measures grass every week with me and so forth. So that's my role here in Pensec. And then as we go through the season, I tend to do a couple of milkings a week here and there, as and when needed. I do some tractor driving. I look after 100 young stock of my own, and then we have 4 contract rearers as well, rearing heifers for us, and that's all within a 5-mile vicinity of Pensec Bag. So it's easy for me to go and see the calves when I want. Those people are really good people that I know well and trust well. We make sure that we always pay on time, give or take a couple of days type of thing if I forget something or whatever. But that's crucial, that those people that have done that job, that they get paid on time because they've done their side of it, you know. And that is something that I absolutely 100% make sure, especially with staff as well. They always get paid on time. Nobody's ever been late paid. If anything, they've been overpaid before being underpaid, yeah. And that's crucial because they've done their work and they want to feel valued. So from that, Pensec Bag is where my office is, where I am today. This is where sort of all the invoices get sent to, and I deal with all the invoices. So I'll move on from there now. Does that sort of sum up Pensec for you, Jamie?
Yeah, that's perfect. And if you could just touch on very briefly, you've got holiday lets as well, close to home, I think, there.
Yeah, we've got one house in the village, a couple of miles up the road from us. The reason behind the holiday let was I wanted a bit of security and a bit of stability, because at the end of the day, we are tenant farmers where we live. We are here for another 9 years on Pensec. We've agreed another 9 years to 2030. We were coming up to the end of that, sort of 3 years from the end of it, 4 years maybe, and I was thinking to myself, where does this leave us? We've got 3 kids, aged 11, 8 and 4. Married, we've been together 17 years. Me and Mary, we're not married, but she's a teacher. And I thought to myself, if shit hits the fan, where are we going to be? If I go into the front of a Mansell Davies lorry, where does that leave Mary and my kids? Yeah, and it's as simple as that, basically. So I did a wealth creation course in 2016, 2016, and the first thing I was asked, have you got a will? And the most responsible thing you can do, from Michael Murphy's words, are make a will. Even if you've only got a pair of shoes and a mobile phone, it's the most responsible thing. It's being responsible for the next person. And then there was also lots of stuff there regarding I can't think of the word now, with Sean Bushell. Succession, yeah, thanks. So succession planning, and I sat there thinking, what a load of nonsense this is in 2016. And actually it's becoming quite, apparent to me now, and it's relevant. So I suppose in 2018, I bought this house with Mary, and we decided that we were only going to be on this farm a couple of years, and we would have somewhere to live if something happened. We ended up doing it as a holiday let for a couple of years until we would move there. And what actually happened then was we agreed another 10 years here, sort of thing, 9 years here. So that we rent it out. It's a good little business. And Mary has just finished teaching because we did some other stuff, and she was going to go and run some other stuff as a business with us. But the money that the house brings in is a bit of income for her, really, more than anything. Yeah, so it stands alone. So anyway,
yeah.
We then start to go down. So I suppose another couple of miles down the road, we have a petrol station and garage, and that is a 50-50 partnership with a local builder. I was feeling really down 2 years ago. Didn't feel like I was getting anywhere, and I walked into the pub to play darts on a Friday night, and the lady came up to me that owned the garage and said, I'm selling the garage. And I said, I'm buying it 100%. I knew I wanted it straight away. 165 grand she wanted. I didn't have any money, and I went and found it somehow. Anyway, I rang up. She said to me, there's a local guy, and this the reason I'm telling these stories, yeah, is because it's about integrity, okay? and it's about keeping integrity. It's crucial from the bank's point of view, local people's point of view, business, customer relations, staff relations, everything. Yeah. So it's about basically not standing on other people, right? And this is a big part of what we're doing. So the guy, she said to me, the local fella who had been building our milking parlours, similar age to myself, young family, she said he wanted to buy the garage. So I rung him up and I said, if you're buying the garage, I'm not going to step on your feet. I said, you carry on. He says, I can't afford it. We've just bought a house. I said, so let's go 50-50 then. So he came round for a cup of tea and we went 50-50 on it. We've just got full planning on this garage, and we hope to start building. Well, last week of December it arrives, but it's taken 2 years to get planning. Again, this is all a learning curve. Yeah, it's we're dealing with people getting really frustrated, wanting to shout at people down the phone and holding back and leaving it a night before, leaving it till the next morning, and then ringing someone up so you don't fall out with people. You know, keeping that
relationship tip there, isn't there?
Yeah, you know, it's just, but it's true and it works. Yeah. So yeah, it's okay being stern. It's okay putting your point across to an extent, but trying to just hold back a little bit. And David Winfinch, that I'm in partnership with, says that I have calmed down a massive amount to what I used to be, because I used to fly off the handle. I haven't noticed it at all, really. I think I'm probably a little bit more reasonable than I used to be, sort of thing, if someone's late or whatever. So anyway, we did the garage and we've got full planning to build a brand new petrol station, shop and takeaway, a Chinese takeaway, because I wanted a challenge of a Chinese takeaway. Okay, so they are. So we're doing that in the spring and that'll be ready for next summer. The business, we took it on as a going concern and it's made money both years, like serious good investment, you know, because we're in a touristy sort of area and it is tourist related, the business side of it, you know. Local people are great. They've been really supportive through the winter, and then in the summer it goes like a bomb. So we carry on then. We'll go to 2018. 2018, when we did the shop and the house, I suppose, same time. I'd been looking for another opportunity. I'd been looking for a second farm. We were ramped up with 500 cows. Shocking spring. On my knees in the middle of the field in the spring, screaming at the sky type of thing, you know. 2 days of sunshine later, it's the best thing ever. Straight back on it. And everyone who's watching this, who's farming, will relate to that. So I rung up a guy called Joe Delves in south of England. And I says, I'm desperate to buy a farm. I've had enough, sort of thing. I'm just pissed off with trying to find somewhere now. And I've got to find somewhere because we've got 500 cows here. And he says, well, just go to the bank and ask them how much you can borrow. So basically, I had a equity growth curve, which I had done. And maybe it's been on there before, I don't know. But basically, it shows that we started with £3,000 here in 2009, and we had an equity growth of about, well, it was £1,050,000, yeah, at 24% equity growth, compounding annually. So we went to the bank and I said, look, I want to buy a farm, or I want to rent a farm. Farm ownership had never been in my mind before. I thought it was never possible. And they decided to, he says, well, the first two things we tick is the person, the track record, reputation. Yeah. The last thing was capital, which I had none of, basically, apart from cows. I had no cash, but we had lots of cows, yeah, which had ramped up, and we were rearing them cheaply, and then they were on the balance sheet as good value. So he offered to lend us 1.2 million quid, and I need another 460 to set the farm up, basically, and buy a bit of young stock. So that's what we agreed. So it's 1.64, and he needed a personal guarantee of £500,000 as well. So I signed that. We set up the farm. We took cows off the farm here, and Oshan, a young lad locally, he went to run it. So we set it up ourselves. That was 2018. We started actually setting it up December 22nd or 17th of December 2018. We were on a dumper all over Christmas, came home for Christmas Day, straight back there Boxing Day. We were milking cows within 5 weeks in the parlour, all set up. We then waited I then got someone that got in touch with me called John Furnival. He said to me that he wanted to do something in Wales. He's always wanted to farm in Wales, and would I be interested in doing something with him? We ended up going 50-50, and he said, well, you've got a farm, I want a farm. So I went and I looked at another farm already for 1.2 million quid, 45 minutes away in Llandelo. So I said to John, this is a nice farm, but the reason I went for the one in Tregaron was it was a bit closer. So I'm talking my way through your map here, yeah? So people can see this Tregaron, which is Crimrin Bychan, and then you've got Llandelo down the bottom somewhere. Is it on there? Yeah, Bringwyn Farm is in Llandelo. So John Furnival, I went to there and I negotiated for that farm for him, and we went 50-50. So we owned a farm each, but essentially we owned 50% of 2 farms, yeah? And Mary, my missus, was saying to me, so do we own a farm or do we not own a farm? She couldn't get her head around it. It was like, we're going to buy a farm, but now we don't own a farm, yeah? So anyway, we did that. A local guy next door to us, he'd worked for us before. His brother is a contract rearer, Alex. He went down to manage Bringwyn. So we started milking in Crinford and Tregaron, spring 19. The minute we finished calving, we went to set up Bringwyn in Llandelo, right? Following that summer, we took on 20 acres of ground, which is Dolai Eiron in the middle, which is in a place near a place called Talsan. And that guy said to me, would you be, I asked him, I said I was interested in renting the farm off him. He said, oh, you want to plough everything up? And I said, no, I want to direct drill everything. He says, now we're talking, let's do something. So he offered us the farm on a 15-year FBT. So we took that on and we started milking there in 2020 through a temporary parlour. And we did the tracks and everything the same. And then this year, we were offered to take over a farm in Aberaeron, which is the one Penrhw, right on the side on a lovely coastal farm. And someone offered us that, and it was already actually set up near enough. So we took that on. So that's currently where we are. And so overall, the size, it's somewhat like 1,700 cows, and then all the followers, there's 1,000 followers or so, and they're all with the contract rearers. So I manage the contract rearing side of it all here through relationships, and the girls and lads down there manage all of cows and grass, yeah? So they focus on getting cows in calf and managing the grass. So as I was saying, it's been busy over 18 to 21, and now I feel like consolidation is the right thing to be doing. And also, there's going to be a point when the bank says no to me, isn't there? And that's probably coming quite quickly.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things that you've said there that are quite interesting, that you know, they're nearly throwaway comments, but I want to really pick up on them. You talked about somebody saying about ploughing and you saying no, we'll direct drill, and then they latched onto that, and you know, that's all about aligning yourself with other people who have similar values, I suppose, because if you'd have wanted to do something differently there, presumably that relationship wouldn't have been forged.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's going to meet those people and introducing yourself in the right manner, and I suppose everybody listens to other people in the farming communities, yeah? That, have you seen, you know, apparently we lost 500 cows one day. The 500 cows were dead one day. We lost no cows, you know? So this fellow had probably heard people talking, and he thought, who the hell are these people, you know? So I went to see him myself. I'd heard the stories myself, and we went to see him. And from that, he got to know us, and then we built a relationship out of it. So it was from basically not listening to the stories, yeah? That's crucial in what we're doing. And it's crucial to make sure that staff aren't listening to stories. Because I went down there a couple of months ago, and I'm saying all these things, it's all open and honest, and I'm saying it all so people hear it, and then they'll probably come across it at some point in their careers or whatever, young or old or whatever. And for instance, I went down there and one of the lads asked me, is everything all right? And I said, yeah. I went down there to do a bail count. It was about 10 o'clock at night and we were busy. And he said, I've heard that you've gone bust, you know. I said, okay. I said, so I got the bag. So the only way for me to make sure that he knew we were okay and his wages were going to get paid was I got my phone out and showed him all the bank balances on my phone and said, that's what we need. If we needed to find, if we needed to get money today, we can get that much money on the phone, which was something like 300,000 quid on overdraft. I said, so make sure that's your wages safe. And I went to the next farm and the next person asked me the same thing and I showed them. And I just went round and made sure everybody, ensured everybody knew that it was a story and they were safe and they laughed it off and they'd heard it in the pub and we carried on and we never heard anything else about it. But that could have been detrimental to our business, whereas they could have all been talking and panicking and decided to leave and go elsewhere, you know, from a story. I don't know if that's answering your question, Jamie. But
no, it's good.
yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. I have got another question come in as well about you mentioned about people being valued. How do you make sure all of your staff feel valued, even those who might be temporary or part-time?
So I suppose there's been a few changes down there which has made a difference to this. But what was taking a lot of my time before was making sure that when I went down to South Wales or Mid Wales, I was going around every individual person and I was, are you okay? Are you happy? Is there anything we can change? You know, they were looking at me funny a lot of the time as if, why are you asking me these things? You know, they're just there working. But I suppose I've always been, what's the word? I suppose I'm quite caring. I've always been quite caring since I was a kid, and soft, if you like. And I'm a people pleaser, yeah? And other people say you shouldn't be a people pleaser because if you're a people pleaser, people, if they're going to leave, they're going to leave anyway. That's what they say. But I think that's nonsense because if you can go around and possibly solve something that's a problem and nip it in the bud before it becomes the fact that they want to leave, yeah. Whether it's financially, maybe they're just having an issue with their partner, or maybe it could be anything. It could be the fact that there's no heating in their house or chalet or caravan or whatever they're living in, and they're just afraid of saying that to me, and they feel, well, maybe they feel that's not his problem, that's their problem, but they might not be able to afford to fix it. So I went down the other week and was talking to one of the lads that had just started with us, and he's had a bit of a hard time recently, and he's took a job with us, and he said, I knew he's struggling for cash a bit, and I went and I said, you know, do you want a bit of money up front, sort of thing, 500 quid or something, just to tide you over till you get paid. He'd only just started a week before. Things like that, you know. I don't look at this as if it's money, okay? It's not all about money, right? It's about the enjoyment of the people. The money is a means to an end, and anyone can look at me and say that's nonsense, but we've got nothing. We ain't got nothing, right? We live on overdrafts day to day, and I'm happy doing that. What I want to see is happy people, yeah. And I look at the big picture. I feel I look at the big picture. So if I know that somebody needs something, and it's important, it's relevant, then, and it keeps them happy, I think it's important to make that happen, yeah. And maybe that's something like, for instance, if when I had a member of staff here a couple of years ago and I gave them 10 heifer calves and they're off my balance sheet, okay, I owned them, right? So I gave 10 heifer calves away. So essentially the business, Pentleff Back, should have owed me £2,000 for those calves. But I don't bother charging Pentleff Back £2,000 because I look at the big picture. That keeps the member of staff happy. She was progressing, she was getting somewhere in life. Two grand was a very small sort of amount when you're looking at what we're doing and trying to achieve and when we're trying to get to. And a couple of months later, David Winfinch said to me, "Oh, there's a bench on the account there for 1,000 quid," and it was one that I bought for my garden, and it had accidentally gone on the farm account. And he said to me, "Do you know what? Forget it." You know, he knew what I'd done with the calves, so it's give and take at all times, yeah. And that's what I'm getting at here. I'm not saying give away and every time someone asks you for something you give in to them, but I'm saying there's give and take in every situation. And I feel that's what, looking at the big picture, as what's allowed me to grow. Yeah, that's really what I feel. Not sweating the small stuff, sort of thing.
Okay. So we have got a question come in from the audience about what's your staff turnover across the farms?
Staff turnover, typically in Pensleigh, I think people have stayed 2 to 3 years, right? And they're always really young people that come in. And I wonder if that's because of age or just circumstantial. I always question myself, why do people leave? But nobody's ever left not to go back into farming. Nobody's ever left to basically go and work in a warehouse or get out of farming. They've always moved forward into something different. Sometimes it's people that, I've always had people coming in from far away near enough, apart from a couple of people. So trying to get people to come into a new area and not knowing anybody and trying to fit in, it's quite difficult times. So I think for Pensleigh, I'm putting it a little bit of that. And I think 2 to 3 years, that's all right. I think that's quite reasonable. People move on and they're growing. Some people, they come at 16, 17 and they feel like they haven't actually enjoyed themselves enough. Do you know what I mean? And it's quite a demanding job, isn't it? You know. So down in South Wales, we've had 2 or 3 people that have done a season with us, yeah, and gone on, or even 4 or 5 months. But the grass is always greener on the other side, you know. That's what everyone thinks, and it's not, you know. And it also, I'll go back to that in a minute, to the people, to answer the person's question. I'm not dodging it at all by any means. But when I used to work for Rhys Williams over in Kevin Amlwch, I was there for 7 years, and I used to ask Rhys for a pay rise regularly. And people have probably heard me say this before. I always go on about this. And I asked for more money, and he said, listen, and he said one day, stop asking for more money. If you can afford to live, put food on the table, you've got a vehicle, a reliable vehicle, he said, the opportunity will come. And I'd go home to Mary and say, what a load of nonsense, you know, really frustrated. But it's never a true word said. And what I think what happens with people is they're working away on a farm and they feel that they're not going anywhere, but they're not valuing what they're learning, yeah? That personal growth of learning, right? And experience, because you can't put a value on that. So the money might not be going up at a rate of knots, but someone is taking notice of what you are doing. Someone is appreciating what you are doing, and they're taking note of that, and within time, that's when your opportunity will arise, whether that's through money or whether that's opportunity as in step up in your career path, or a farm even, to go into share farming, whatever it is, yeah. And that's crucial. That's crucial, to be showing that person that you are trying to grow, whether it's something on the side with a few calves, but it's showing that person that you're trying to get somewhere and trying to achieve something and you're enjoying it. And what I think happens, people stay there for 3, 4 years, and then they jump off the wagon. They think, I'm going nowhere here. And they jump off the wagon. They see another opportunity and they think, shit, that looks good. Jump off. And if they'd have just stayed on for 6 months or 12 months, their opportunity would be there. And what's frustrating for them people then, and it probably knocks their confidence, is when they look back at that farm they were working on and somebody else has got another opportunity. They've only been there 12 months, but they've moved on to a new farm and they're growing. And then this person starts their next 4 years and does the same thing again. So what I'm getting at, yeah, is don't jump off the wagon. Yeah, if there's problems, if you don't feel you're being appreciated, if people aren't giving you time, they're not willing to spend time with you, and you're not going anywhere, then fine, fair enough. But if you are actually going along quite nicely and you're still learning and you can see there's a bit of progress and you're enjoying it, stick, you know, try and stick to it a little bit. That, I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's what I'm getting out of this, yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, that's brilliant.
From down in South Wales, staff turnover, we've had one guy there from the beginning. I know it's only 3, 4 years we've been down there, yeah, but 1, 2, 3 have been there the whole time, and they're all managing a farm each now. and we've got another 4 or 5 people. For one, for instance, he'd had 7 jobs within less than 9 months, and he's been with us for a year and a bit, and he's got no issues whatsoever. Yeah, I think just making sure that you actually ask people and show people that you care. Like they've said to me, you know, we can't believe that you actually genuinely care about what we're doing or care where we're going. And that's the honest truth. And to me, that's everyone should be caring where their staff's going, because that's what's running their bloody business, and without them, they can't do it. Simple as that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I just want, before we turn these slides off, I just want to highlight, because not everyone might be familiar with the geography of Wales. So the group of 3 up the top, that is your home. And the distance from those group of 3 down to the furthest one is about 3.5 hours drive. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, 3:40 yesterday morning. Yeah, if I leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock, I can get there in 3 hours. If you leave after sort of 6 or 7, you're 4 hours.
Yeah, we won't complain about Aberystwyth traffic maybe on a webinar, but so how do you manage that? The distances involved there. You can't be there at a moment's notice. You know,
well,
how do you manage people from far away? Okay.
I can be there at a moment's notice, Jamie, because I can be there in 3.5 hours. So if a milk pump seal's gone, I can probably get there quicker than most people who come out to fix it anyway, type of thing. So my argument is that if anything was to go wrong that they really needed help with, I can drive down there in no time. Yeah, 2.5, 3 hours, whatever. If it's midnight, I'll be there in sort of 3. And I suppose that again, that's showing the people down there support and being supportive. What basically they've got to a point now where, like a milk pump seal, when I did go down there and do that, I showed an individual person how to do that. And now, because all the parlours are Waikato swingovers, the milk pump seals are the same in all of them. So if somebody else's go, he can go and show them how to do that, and he's got it on his phone. Yeah, I can send them a video, I can send them a WhatsApp, or we've got good people to service the parlours down there from Waikato, and they can do it, a lot of it over the phone, or they will go out themselves. There's certain things like back to scan issues or cell counts. So back to scan, I like to go down there and I like to go through the parlour and have a look at what's going on, because I feel I've got quite a bit of experience in that, and I feel I'm good. I am good at getting back to scans and cell counts down. And you've got to be confident within yourself, and you've got to be willing. Yeah. So it's willingness to go, right? And it's bloody hard some days when you think, do I really want to go down there? So can I be asked to get in the van and drive 4 hours in the pissing rain? But yeah, you get in the van and you set off on your journey and you get down there and you try and resolve a problem. Is that answering that question for you?
Yeah, it does. And I suppose I'm interested in knowing a bit more about how you specifically plan your time, because how far ahead can you plan? Are you planning a week? Are you planning a month? Is everyone on these farms know when they're going to see you next, or is it a case that they pick up the phone and then you decide whether that whatever issue they might have that week is important enough for you to make the journey?
Well, those people typically know what's going on their farms themselves, yeah, and that's the whole point of letting people run with it and having that responsibility and finding their feet, sort of thing. So what we do is simple. Everybody knows how it works. We calve cows, we get them back in calf. We milk cows, we dry cows off, we calve cows. Yeah. So everybody knows at certain times of the year, this happens at this time of the year. And there's a great community down there on the farms of people that get on with each other, right? Everyone's very, very close. So the other week, I was taking tubes down there, and I was late arriving. Halfway, I met someone halfway, and he was late arriving back with the tubes, but I wanted those cows drying off on that day because they'd gone too far. They weren't milking enough to carry on. It was affecting back to scan and cell counts. So what he did, he arrived late, and 3 other people came from the other farms to help him dry off. So they got done, yeah. And that's crucial, because they could have sat at home on there and they could have said, bloody hell, look at them still working, we're at home in front of the fire. They didn't. They get in the cars and they go and find people. So how far can I plan ahead? I typically say a week. If I've planned to do something important, as in a talk or something that's not farming related or whatever, or something in the shop where someone's off, I typically write it on a calendar, yeah, in my office. But there's probably only 5 things written on the calendar for this whole year so far. That's it. And 3 of them I wrote the other day, right? Because things were getting a bit busy in my head. So typically, I talk to the staff down there and the managers of the farms, probably on a daily basis. Some more than others, because some people like to talk and some people don't like to talk. Yeah. So they'll ring me up and say on a Friday and say, "What's your plans next week? I want to do this. I want to have a look at this." And I'll say, "Right, I'll be down Monday, Tuesday. Are you all right for Monday, Tuesday?" Then I'll let the others know that I'm going to be down there Monday, Tuesday. If they need anything bringing, I'm coming down. Took 2 pallets of sawdust the other week. They're a bit short. I've got too much here. I don't want a full load down there for 3 grand. Take 2 back and then charge it back, you know, stuff like that. It's trying to help, and they feel like, yeah, he actually cares and he's helping us out, sort of thing. So nobody's ever alone. Then you've got the shop. I tend to go to the shop in order to collect take-ins and stuff. I tend to go to the shop nearly every single day because I love the shop and it's my getaway. It's my holiday from farming. I like seeing people, meeting people, talking with people there, and that again helps towards like communication and relationships. It helps me speak Welsh because in the shop there's a very Welsh community, so I have to speak Welsh with the customers. Great for me, and so that's a personal thing anyway. But I tend to typically prioritize my week ahead, I'd say, Jamie, and what people need. Yeah, and that might be being a people pleaser, but at this point in time in my career, I think that being a people pleaser is crucial to our business right this moment in time. And in another 10 years, it's probably going to be different. But we're still getting up and running at the moment. And there's a lot of debts, a lot of borrowings, and we've got to keep swimming. So as long as people are feeling that we respect them, we are supporting them, and I feel that we are actually still getting somewhere, then that's where I'm at, sort of thing. That's
Another question come in asking, do you do formal appraisals with each member of staff?
not at the moment, and I suppose it's because of the busyness that we haven't done that. I've never really done it in Pensleth because in Pensleth there's only ever been one full-time member of staff with me and maybe a relief milker, if that. So there's no issue with communication there. You talk all day, you know. You see them parlour in the morning, staff come to my house, they have their lunch, whatever. You know, it's very family sort of. I feel it's family orientated. Everyone sees it. From the milking parlour, you see my missus and the kids going to school in the morning, so forth. So I don't see a real need for that in Pensleth because I feel that I'm asking those questions probably on a daily basis. Are you all right? Are you happy? And I tend to prefer, as regards to people feeling like they're getting on, yeah, I prefer to give a pay rise every 6 to 12 months. Instead of giving 5 grand, I prefer every 6 months to give 1 or 2, so people feel like they're getting somewhere on a regular basis. Yeah. So every 6 months, imagine every 6 months you get £1,000 pay rise. That's nice. Next 6 months, I get another grand pay rise. And actually, someone can be with you for maybe 4 or 5 years before they get to that managerial role pay, but they've had a pay rise every 6 months, and that's nice. That, you know, that would drive me anyway. That's how I like to do it. Yeah, and I think that the staff tend to see that. I got to live up to that now, haven't I?
Yeah, you have. You've said it now. It's been recorded. And
but we
just
do.
Matthew, you're talking a lot about the things that you would value. How do you make sure that what you think they want is what they want? Because we've already said what drives you might not drive somebody else.
I asked the question. You asked the question. So, for instance, one couple needed a house, and only one of them was working for us. down in mid Wales. So I put all the money that I could get from the overdraft facilities and bought a house with an overdraft facility, right? Absolutely would cripple ourselves doing it, right? But we wanted to make sure that that person had a house to live in because that was important to them. And they got in the house and they were there a couple of months and they said, can we move back to the caravan? And I said, why the hell would you want to move to the caravan? And they said, because we like the caravan. It's smaller, it's easier to keep, it's tidy, it's central heated, it's cheaper to keep, whatever. And they moved back to the caravan. And then we ended up with a house that was vacant. Yeah. So that type of thing is what you're talking about. What another lad down there, Nathan, they won't mind me talking about their personal this stuff at all because it's happened, right? So for 2 or 3 months, I've been thinking to myself, what does Nathan want? Nathan will want to move. He's 30 odd, wants to move to a house. You know, he's lived in a caravan. He's earned his stripes 2 or 3 years. He really worked his arse off. And I've managed to find a house on some land we were renting, £600 a month, and we couldn't afford it. You know, we didn't really want to pay it. I didn't want to pay it, couldn't afford it. We could spend it on other things like new tracks or whatever. And I went and found this house, and I was so excited to go and tell Nathan. So I stopped him on the tractor. I opened the door and I said, are you ready to move house? And he said, nah, I'm happy where I am. And I said, well, I've just bloody rented a house for you. You know, it's costing me 7,000-8,000 quid a year. You know, no bills or nothing, no council tax for you. Nah, I'm happy where I am. I said, well, would you prefer some more money? Yeah. So they are. So I worried myself 2 months about it, and actually it was nothing what he wanted whatsoever. So I've learned there, Jamie, to ask a question, yeah, to ask before acting, because it might not make them happy.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with making a mistake once, is there? But twice is silliness.
Oh yeah.
So with someone in the question box has mentioned the Christmas word. I don't know about this. It's a bit early, but do you do anything for your staff at Christmas? You know, is there a meal out or something? What do you do at Christmas?
Yeah, so last year was a bit different. I think last year I just gave everyone 100 quid cash, and to be honest, I was on my arse last year. But I felt 100 quid cash was a little bit of to say thank you, yeah. But this year, for instance, we've booked Oshan, one of the lads. He has booked in 20 of us, including contractors and some of our, well, one contractor or two, and some of our landlords, well, all of them, to go clay pigeon shooting on Saturday morning, next Saturday, followed by a meal, 3-course meal, and then a pub crawl back to Aberystwyth. Yeah, so on the piss in Aberystwyth, and then back. Everyone can find their own way home. Yeah, and that's it. The bus leaves at 8 o'clock at night. Starts 8:30 in the morning, finishes 8:30 at night. So yeah, I suppose that's something that I feel people will enjoy, and obviously it's paid for up until you get to Aberystwyth type of thing. So it's quite a bit of money. It'll cost us a bit of money, but it's an appreciation type thing. And last year we didn't do much. I don't even know if we went for a meal last year. I don't think we did because of COVID and stuff. The previous year we went on a trip with one of the landlords, and we all went out with him. And then we went out again actually the following night, but everyone was hungover from the night before, so nobody was interested. So, but yeah, if that answers the question, yeah, we do something.
Yeah. And we've got other people interested in what staff training you do, and there's particular mention about inductions as well. So do you officially induct new members of staff?
So this is an interesting one. I've been advertising we needed 3 or 4 new members of staff recently because we took on this other farm, which allowed one manager to move closer to where his girlfriend worked, and I think he'd had enough of the rain, to be honest, so he wanted to move somewhere, and it was a bigger farm, so he got to move, which meant his 2IC for 3 years or 2.5 years moved up to managerial stage. So I wanted somebody under him. Another lad was moving from a farm down there and coming back to Penslech with me. He didn't come back for other circumstances, but that was the plan. And then somebody else was taking his managerial role, and I needed a 2IC with him. so for them. So it created 3 or 4 jobs, yeah, by other people moving forward. By default, this was not planned at all. I had a phone call out of the blue saying, "Do you want a farm?" And it was on the 20th of November. September, and we want you to start on the 1st of October. So I was like, right, we've got to make some big decisions here. But yes, we'll have it, sort of thing. And so what we did is I put an advert with Indeed.com. I had lots of people ringing, lots of, from all over the place, and there was some good people. And then nobody turned up apart from one for the interview. One. Some said they were coming the following morning. They never turned up. We've been talking for 2 weeks at this stage with some people, and they just stopped answering their phones. Yeah. And I was really frustrated. And I've been saying to Oshan, the lad that first come down there with me, I've been saying to him from day one, we want people to work for us. We don't want to be trying to get people to work for us. We want people to know our reputation, that we're doing a good job, we're looking after people, and we want them to ring us up. And anyway, we've found 1, 2, 3, 4 new people full time, and not a single one has come from an advert. They've all contacted us, and through the 5, we just did another one yesterday, another person. And so going from that, what I have changed there, as regards to inductions and stuff, yeah, I would go down there and interview people if there was someone to turn up to be interviewed, right? And I would tend to do that. And I think I'm quite personable, talk and that. And we'd go for a walk around the farm, we'd have a chat about personal stuff. There was nothing really, no real seriousness. Whether that's right or wrong, it's just the way I like to do it. Oshan or Ala or whoever was down there, they would come with me and walk around with us. And then with a couple of the people we've just employed, I spoke on the phone to them, and the people down there, the managers, they actually took them around themselves, yeah, because they're going to be working with them people. So I've never really done a week or 2 of unpaid trials, anything like that, or paid trials. There was one guy that was meant to turn up. We were meant to do paid trials. He never turned up, so we never got any money, and we never saw him. So it's something, I suppose, I would prefer it to carry on where we're not actually interviewing people. We tend to know the people already, and we know of people that are moving through the system, and we hear, bloody hell, this guy or girl is getting really good, and then she's potentially looking for something, or he's looking for something. And so for one instance, Alao, girl rang me up and she said, I'm moving down there with my boyfriend near Aberdeen. Have you got any work down there? And I said, no, I haven't at the minute. I said, I haven't got anything. Really sorry. And I heard her, she was good. And within 2 minutes, I rang her back and said, I've made a position. I want you to come down there. And she came down to see us, and she's took the job, and she's managing a farm now within 6 months of being down there. And she's loving it. She's got her own house, everything. So, yeah. What else do I getting at there? Oshan. One thing that I've changed down there at the minute is Oshan and Alex, 2 of the managers that have been there from the beginning. They were driving tractors, 2 tractors themselves, and they were putting about 1,200 to 1,200 hours on these tractors, yeah? So I've actually taken one of them tractors from there. So there's 1 tractor between 4 farms, okay? And that tractor's there in case they've got a cow down in a paddock on one of the farms and they need to go and get the tractor. So within an hour, they can have the tractor at the farm lifting a cow if need be, yeah? They've got each farm has either got a skid steer or a JCB, small JCB telehandler, very small. And I have bought a new tractor with a lot of implements, and we've employed a guy to do a 50-hour week, and he will just basically near enough be on that tractor all year doing 50 hours per week, and he will do most of the work on the 4 farms, yeah? And the reason for that is to take Oshan and Alex and anyone else down there out of sitting on the tractor, which they don't enjoy doing really, and managing people, grass and cows, okay? So that, I think that's a really strategic move, okay? And they're happier without that. Because I'd ring Oshan up and I'd say to him, oh, you're not carrying bales today? And he'd say, no, I've got the contract to do it. And I'd be sat there thinking, Jesus, why when there's a tractor and trailer sat there, you know? I'd be sat in my office thinking, why the hell? I carry my own bales. But actually, he's probably just worked a 20-hour shift anyway, doing fencing and all the rest of it. And his tractor's probably busy. But I don't see that, do I? So you go, okay, no worries. And you, okay, thanks, and phone down, type of thing. So I think that's one of the strategic moves. And at the same time, I've asked Oshan to oversee 2 of the farms and help them with their grass allocation, budgeting and measuring. Because I feel that I haven't got enough time to go down there and walk every farm, yeah. So again, I think that's a real strategic move, because already I'm seeing that at the end of the year we've got good grass covers, yeah, ready for the spring. We're set up for the spring. I also feel that with the silage ground we've got, we're not utilising it well enough, and because I'm not down there looking every time they've cut silage, I'm not there to see what they've had off it. Yeah, so I just go down there and say, oh, that's a small pile of silage. That's an expensive pile of silage off them fields. 100 acres, you know, I would have got double off that type, right? So Oshan will look at that and go, right, he'll report back to me, okay, we've had so much off this field, we've tested it and it needs something, yeah? So we can start getting more production and being more efficient in what we're getting out of the land, yeah? And we need to do that anyway, as regards to talking about, you know, carbon footprint, so forth, this, that, and the other. So that it all goes hand in hand to an extent.
So it sounds really like what you're doing is trying to recognise the strengths in particular individuals. So if he's good at that, put him on that job and delegate some of what you were previously doing in order to make space for some of the other stuff that's going on, I suppose, in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, Oshan is the type of person that gets bored easily. He's got loads of energy and he wants to grow. So I'm not saying that other people in our businesses don't want to, but it's something that he asked me about. Something that he actually came to me personally and said, what can I do? But I'll tell you what he did. I'll tell you the truth of what he did, right? He rang me up and he said, my mate's on 45 grand now. And I said, that's lovely for him. I'm really pleased for you. And he went, I said, so okay, then I finished the conversation. The next day I rang him up and I said, so what are you going to do for 45 grand? And he said, what do you want me to do? How can I make your life easier? And I said, okay, then I said, this is what I want from you. I want you to make sure we've got enough silage on those farms, 3 farms. I want to make sure that we're growing so much grass. I want to make sure the soil fertility is right, to make sure people are happy on those farms. I want to make sure that we don't run out of silage on those farms. I want more milk out of the cows on those farms. I said, and if you do that, you get your money. And he says, right then, when do I start? And I said, today. And then we're off, and he's off like a horse down the field, and he's flying, yeah. And I can see the difference. And then I went down there last week, and I pulled up in the yard, and Nathan says to me, I've just got a few questions for you about what you want to do with the empty cows, what you want to do with it. Have you spoke to Oshan? Yeah, and he wants to do this, this, and this. Yeah, do you agree? Yeah, okay, thanks. I got in my van and I drove off to the next farm. Never done that before. Yeah, did the same thing there. And I was back having a COVID test by 12:30 in the afternoon. You know, never before. Normally it'd be a 9-10 o'clock at night job home. So immediately that's changed my life. It's changed my life, it really has. You know.
Fab. I'm quite keen to try and bring the audience in a little bit now, and we've got a poll question, because Matt, you've been talking a lot about motivation and what motivates people, and we absolutely acknowledge that not the same thing motivates everybody. So we thought it would just be interesting to ask the people that are listening, what is the most important thing to you when you're looking at your career? So hopefully a poll will pop up now. And we're going to ask you, please, to select one of the answers. So it'll either be money, so your salary, your job package, recognition, the work culture, so that really means kind of the people that you're working with, the environment that you're in, time off, or progression opportunities. So if I could ask you all to cast a vote on the poll, and we will feed back what everyone thinks. I think everyone's scrambling to find their mouse at the moment to cast their vote. So I'll just give you 30 more seconds just to consider the question and come back to us. So I know Emily's there in the background somewhere. How are we doing? Can we get a result on that, please? There we go. So hopefully everyone can see. Yeah, lovely. Thanks very much. So what's most important to you when looking at your career? We've got 23% saying it's the salary, it's the job package, 20% saying recognition. So the winner really is work culture at 28%. Time off just 9%, which I actually find quite surprising, and progression opportunities at 20%. So it's just interesting to see how people prioritize different things. And I know that there'll be lots of people who are, family farms and they're in family businesses listening today. And I know that sometimes some of those things are perhaps not always, or don't always feel as relevant in a family farm situation. But of course they are, because they are things that are to some extent in control of yourself, or, what you gives you something to think about when you're maybe trying to offer something to somebody who's working in your team. Fab, thanks, Emily. So there was a few people there were voting for career progression. What does somebody have to do, Matt, to sort of retain their position in your business and progress within your business?
I think all people need to do is show that they're actually treating it like they care about it. Mm-hmm. They care about where we're going. They want to be part of it. It's not necessarily that they want to be the next share farmer or whatever else. It's just noticing that people actually. So, for instance, when someone breaks something and they walk up to you and they say, "I'm really sorry about that, taking out my wages," you won't take it out their wages anyway, regardless. But it just shows that they care. When somebody doesn't actually tell you, or they blame someone else or whatever else it is, it sort of gives you an indication of what type of person they are. And again, it goes back to sort of reputation and so forth. So I think my answer to that is that they actually just show that they want to go somewhere, they care about what you're doing, and that's enough for me. It's nothing special. It's just the fact that they've got good integrity. Yeah? They tell you when something's broken. Of course, you want them to upskill. I think one of the questions there before, what I didn't answer was, do we train people? What's the training? So I'll just go on to that briefly. I genuinely haven't sent anybody onto any courses so far. So actually, Oshan and Alex, a couple of them, did the AHDB
Entrepreneurs in Dairying course.
So they've done the Entrepreneurs in Dairying, some of them. And some people have already done some stuff where the previous places they've worked and been employed. It's something that I want to implement. But again, we've been so busy getting set up. I just feel people have probably learned a hell of a lot without realising it. Whether it's sat on a dumper which they've never been on before, or travelling to other farms and dropping machines off, or just helping someone else milk, or going to check somebody else's cell count and stripping cows out, looking back to scan problems. A lot of that sort of comes with it. But I would, like foot trimming courses, for instance. Yeah, I've never been on a foot trimming course, but I know I'm good at sorting cows' feet. And I was doing quite a lot of the foot trimming down south as well as home. And because I tend to think that we're better, well, I'm better at sorting my own cow's feet than anybody else that arrives here, because I know the cow. I know if she's walking funny because she's lame, or if in fact she just walks funny because she's always walked funny. Do you know what I mean? You tend to know your cows, sort of thing. And I tend to know a lot of the cows down there, I would say, especially the ones I took down there. So I like to show people foot trimming. Yeah? So I went down there, did 30 with Oshan and Alao a couple of weeks ago. I went down to do some with Alex to show them. Took them new knives, good sharp knives, so they're going to work. They're not struggling. And show them how to repair some cows' feet with bandaging and what I use to, like, as a lameness intervention. And you know, we try different things as regards to foot bathing with different products and so on. So everyone's learning as they go, and if there is a foot trimmer there, I think they're learning more watching a foot trimmer than they would be if they'd probably gone to a course that they were teaching people how to do housed cows' feet. Because a lot of the time they were about the courses are on housed cows. This is what I was always told, you know. They're not actually our issues. They're different issues like slurry heel and stuff like that. Whereas we wouldn't tend to see that. We tend to see white line. Yeah. So it's something I need to look at, and if that's something that people want to do, then bring it to me, type of thing. But at the moment, they're not doing a lot. They're not doing a lot of it. Alao took it upon herself to do one, and she's bloody good at it. Yeah.
So just sort of, I guess we will let you have a breather in a minute, because I'd quite like to go through some time tips that we've managed to gather from some other farmers as part of some work that we did at AHDB. But one really critical question that I really want to ask you, Matt, is you know, you kind of started out with the one farm, and I'm pretty sure that you were probably very busy when you were there, and now you're at 5 units, and I'm sure you're still very busy. But how are you spending your time differently? How are you managing? You know, what have you learned along the way, I suppose, and what are you now doing differently to, you know, what you might have been doing when you maybe had the luxury of more time to spend on an individual business?
I suppose, like I say, prioritising, making sure that what can be left till the following week can be left, and what needs doing today needs doing today. So, for instance, if somebody injures themselves, say, for instance, that we make sure that I either go there to help or we get help immediately. That's just an obvious one. The other one, if there's an environmental issue like a slurry store breach or whatever, that I go down there and dive into the shit, basically, and that's the truth of it. So prioritising is crucial. What else am I doing? So basically, in this office here, it's got a big table, and I invested in this office with the intention that in years to come, I would have people sat around this table that, for whatever reason they're here, I don't know why they were going to be here, but I wanted a table that people could come and sit around. Yeah. And now we've got a table where all the managers can come round every month. I want them to drive from South Wales for a little bit of a holiday break, and they'll be fed here, and they will go through their individual pile of invoices per farm, right?
Okay.
And they'll sit at the table here, and then in the corner, where that board is over there, we will have an agenda for the day. So instead of one of them ringing me up and saying one of my tracks is knackered, can we repair it? And me saying, well, I'll look at it next time I'm down there. But when I'm down there and I've dealt with a load of other stuff, I don't want to go and look at a knackered track, because I've got a 4-hour journey home, and I don't want to be depressed all the way home thinking about a knackered track. Okay, so what I want to do is prioritise, and then when I don't answer the phone because I don't want to hear about a knackered track, I get a video of a knackered track. Right? No, it doesn't work. So over there will be an agenda of the day and whatever is bothering them people on their farms or what they need, they will voice it, and I will log it on that board and say, right, can we afford that this year? I've heard you. You don't need to remind me any more about that. I've heard it now. And I think they call it bandwidth or something. This is what what's his name? Andrew. I'm lost. Sorry, Paul Harris. I got lost then. Sorry, Paul. I got lost. Paul Harris talks about bandwidth, how much stuff is in your head at one time, and all of this is relevant. Yeah. So that was something really beneficial that he explained to me. And he said to me one day, he said, just tell me everything that's in your mind, and the main 3 things that you need to get sorted. And one of them was the house for Nathan. That I was desperate to find him a house because I felt he's done his time in his caravan. Actually, that was in there, and it never even made any sense to be there because he didn't even want it. Yeah, at the end of it. So I got it out on paper, and actually, I felt really good after that. I felt like my head had just, you know, I had a bit more room there. So we'll have the agenda, and I will write stuff down. And if we can afford it this year, and if we can't, we afford it next year. And then people know there's a structure and a strategy to their problems, yeah, and problem solving. And as from a carbon, reducing our carbon, or from a what's the word? Basically, is it that what I'm getting at? Is it the right thing me asking them to drive from South Wales to here on a monthly basis or bi-monthly or whatever? Because it's not very carbon friendly or whatever you'd call it. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at that. But from a perspective of people feeling important, yeah, and feeling like I'm listening to them and I care about what's going on their farms, instead of them being sat there thinking I don't, they actually voice it here. Then they all get to see what each of the farms are doing, because like it or not, there is a competition. Everybody's competitive. Everybody wants to make the most money. Everyone wants to have the lowest bank balance. And at the minute, nobody does anything with it. I do it all on my phone. Got it all on my phone. They don't tend to see it, you know. And then they will be involved in the CFPs, budgeting, budget versus actuals. Richard Davies has actually been doing loads of that with me as part of AHDB and private stuff, personal stuff he's been doing. Like, for instance, equity pathways, looking at other investments that I'm looking at. And yeah, he does a lot of independent stuff, yeah, and he's bloody good at it. So basically, that's something that I've put in place, and I think is going to be massive, because I don't want it to be. I'm not trying to. It's not governance, because I don't really want to sit around the table with a board of people, yeah, as in to govern our business. But what I want to do is have everybody that's involved know what's going on and have an understanding of it and realise, you know, what this means, that we're in this much debt and we're all in it together. Because basically, if it went tits up, that everybody's jobs goes with it, yeah. So it's important that everybody's pulling on the same rope, yeah.
What, Matt? Actually, I think that's a really nice way to sort of bring the conversation to a close, is that everyone has got a definite purpose. They know the direction they're supposed to be in, and that they're pulling in the same direction, and that they're all invested. I think like that invested word, it's more than money, isn't it? It's that investment in time, energy, emotion. They're all invested in your business in the same way that you're invested in them and their careers, and you do really care about them, and that sounds to be a very good working relationship.
I think so. I'm sorry, and I'll apologise, because I look at stuff like off Paul Harris, and they've got specific. They've put all the stuff that I talk about, yeah, and I look at everything the big. It takes a long time for me to get to a point of what I'm trying to say. I like talking about it, but they might put it into a couple of lines. And sorry, I can't basically put it into dead simple context for people as to bang, bang, bang. These are your take-home messages. I don't know. All I feel like is I just sit here talking away, and if people want to take what they want from it, sort of thing. Sorry, I can't get to more of a...
No, you're perfect. It's good. That's what we're here to hear, really, is your journey, how you do it. And that won't be right for everybody. And I mean, your attitude to risk would be very different to lots of other people. Your ability to manage all of those different things. I mean, I think my head would explode if I tried to have that in my head. But then I think this leads us quite nicely into just the final sort of time tips, really, because talking about different people, I'm a lists person. I have to write something down in order to be able to remember it. I might not look at it again, but the process of writing it down really helps me cement it in my mind. And I do think there's nothing more satisfying in the world than ticking something off a list. But that doesn't work for everybody either. So we will just thinking about productivity, you know, Matthew's really focused, and I really wanted to ask the audience, what is it that you allow to distract you from maybe achieving what you need to in a day? Because distractions are probably one of the biggest time wasters that we see in agriculture. So there's another poll. What most frequently distracts you from achieving your daily task list? Is it the phone technology? Is it not delegating tasks, so you're trying to do it all yourself? Is it lack of organisation, procrastination? I know I always put off the jobs that I don't want to do. Or is it sort of, you know, unplanned events, the emergencies? Are you firefighting? We're just really interested to hear what it is that people find the challenges around keeping themselves focused. So hopefully you're all able to vote on that one. And we will keep it very brief. So if you could vote as quickly as you could, that would be fab. And I'm sure that Emily will hit share as soon as we've got most people's votes in.
Still going at the moment, Jamie.
Okay. Okay, so looking like results are in. Okay, so unplanned events is a really, really clear winner then. Nearly 50% of people are saying that the things that distract them from achieving what they intended to get done in a day is unplanned events. So that, you know, could be the calving cow or the sick cow or you know, emergency type stuff. And that in itself is quite interesting, because when I was working on a time management campaign at AHDB, that was what a lot of people were telling us. It was the emergencies that were causing distraction. And one of the time tips that we came up with was really trying to build in a little bit of extra time to allow for those things, because although you might not know what is going to come up, invariably we do know that something will come up. So building in a bit of space for the unplanned activities means that you might still be able to get done your original jobs list. So we've got a few slides, if we can, Emily, please. So I think, you know, the reason I really wanted to ask that poll question was just that it was really less about finding out your answers, but much more about trying to encourage people to start thinking about what it is that they allow to distract them, and what they allow to impact on their productivity. And I think, you know, in farming, often the hours worked are dictated by, you know, how long it takes to complete tasks. So, you know, you can't finish work until milking is finished, because that's just simply something that must be completed before you can finish. And you know, are there things that you can do that will save you any amount of time, any amount at all is valuable, just to get you home earlier? I don't know if people would have done the sums on this, but just 8.5 minutes a day adds up to an hour in a week. So really every minute does count. You know, I hear lots of farmers saying, you know, the one thing that they change about their life might be that they would be able to get home in time to put their children to bed. And if that's just the case of, you know, completing something more efficiently and managing to get home and to do that, then, you know, we'd really like to provide support for people. So we worked with farmers and we asked them what their top time tips were. So top time tip number 1 was about protecting time for particular tasks. So for instance, if you're doing office tasks, blocking that time out, ensuring that the other people in your team know that that's where you are. You're not off skiving, you're doing something, you know, and hopefully they won't sort of interrupt you whilst you're doing that, because they know that that is what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And yeah, not answering the phone when those things are going on. So you've actually designated a specific amount of time to complete a task. We're going to whip through these. So number 2 was having a checklist. I said I love a list. Having a checklist and prioritizing. So there'll be jobs that need to happen, you know, should that list be daily, weekly, monthly? It depends how you work. But it's really important to give deadlines. That was one of the top tips that came back from farmers that we asked, was if you don't include deadlines, then you know things allow to run on, which again can reduce productivity. Number 3, have a jobs list positioned so the whole farm team can see it. And lots of people specifically mentioned the use of whiteboards being really helpful. It means everything's in one place, everyone on the team knows where they can find that. And other people shared ideas about specific information in specific places. So for instance, it's no good having the bull and cows on a whiteboard, because if the whiteboard's not next to the cows, so that might be something that everyone's got on their phone, and a WhatsApp group worked for them. A farm map somewhere that's accessible for the contractors, for instance. Number 4 then, get some quick wins in early every day. So it's a real feel-good factor in getting something done and feeling like you've actually achieved something quite early on in the day. Now, for a lot of dairy farmers, that's going to be milking cows, but then thinking about what can you do in that first job after breakfast, and even getting some of the jobs that might be your least favorite ones done quite early, because people do naturally gravitate towards the jobs that they enjoy doing. So if you sort of get some of the worst ones out the way, then you can reward yourself later on with the fun stuff. Number 5 was switch off distractions. So phone notifications, the WhatsApp messages, etc. You don't necessarily need to read them as they come in. They're there for you when you get there, when you've kind of designated the time to deal with that. And one of the most simple things that people said had made a real difference to them was closing the office door. Now, I know that just sounds like such a silly thing, but it's so easy to get distracted by people walking by or people calling in or looking out of the window. So actually kind of closing the curtains or closing the door allowed people to focus on what it was that they were doing, and they were getting jobs done much more quickly. Number 6, fix and maintain equipment. I think, you know, there's nothing worse than going to do a job and the tools aren't there or things don't work. And we did do some calculations on how long you can save over a year if you fix a gate that takes 30 seconds to tie with string every morning. Over the year, that really does add up to much more than time than it actually would have taken you to have fixed it in the first place. And there's a feel-good factor, isn't there, about getting those things done. Number 7. Batch jobs together where possible. Again, it sounds so simple, but the number of times that we handle cattle, for instance, you know, if you can do more than one job at a time, then a stitch in time, I suppose, saves 9. It might take you slightly longer to do the task, but you're achieving more all at the same time. And batching jobs like your phone calls, like your office tasks, closing that office door and getting into it for a specific amount of time, and then you can walk away and forget about it again later. I mean, Matt talked about offloading things and getting them done, and then you can forget about them. So number 8, yeah, think about what tools there are to support you in getting jobs done. You know, auto latch gates is probably a really popular one that we hear with spring calvers, saves going to get the cows. Squeeze gaps is another one, just saves climbing over the gates. Bit of a health and safety benefit there as well. Number 9, Yeah, having fixed places to keep equipment and information to avoid losing things. So I don't know if people would have shadow boards in their workshops, but having a shadow board is like a stencil outline of whatever tool is in the position that it lives in, and it really shows if something's not where it belongs. And yeah, having things where they belong means that everyone in the team knows where to find things when they need them. And number 10, before starting any new task, take the time to organise and prepare, gathering the tools ready. I can imagine for Matthew, if he hopped in the car from North Wales and to vaccinate some cattle down south and realised that he'd forgotten the vaccine by the time he got there, that's an absolute disaster. But the number of times that, you know, I walk across the yard here on our farm and realise that I've gone without the piece of equipment that I need to do the job, and that's all just time wasted. So those were the tips that came from farmers. They're not my tips, but they're things that people fed into us, made a difference to them. So moving on. Task prioritization. Now, don't panic that you can't read this slide. I don't expect you to be able to read it. If you're watching again on YouTube, then this document is attached, and you'll be able to read it in your own leisure. But task prioritization is one of the things that Matthew's talked about. And so this quadrant just talks through important and urgent jobs, and having a process around prioritizing what you do when can really help in terms of your efficiency. So if we move on, so an important urgent job needs to be done, you know, immediately. It's both urgent and important. We're short on time, so I'm going to flick through these, Emily. So something that's really important, but maybe not as urgent. These are the things that, you know, you need to identify first for yourself and for your business. So there might be more long-term business goals, for instance, but putting them off could actually mean that they become, you know, unrealized dreams, or actually even turn into regrets in the long run. So those kind of things, it might be the making a will that Matt mentioned earlier on, or the, you know, succession planning that Matthew talked about. They're really, really important, but they're not urgent in the way that other things might be. So if we move on, Emily. So something that's low important but more urgent. So these are things like the phone ringing. It's urgent because it's happening now. It interrupts you, it distracts you from what you're doing, but it may not actually be an important phone call. The classic one is a salesperson landing on the yard. They probably are important, but it doesn't have to happen at that moment in time, but they make themselves urgent by being physically there. So if it doesn't need to be done, we'd really be encouraging you to bin those jobs, because, you know, working harder or being busier is not good time management. We don't want people to try and fit in more in their day. We actually want to try and encourage people to kill some of the jobs that are perhaps less important and less urgent. So if we move on to the final one, which is the kind of quadrant of waste, where we really want people to try and avoid spending any time there. It might be phone calls, it might be social media, it might be chatting, you know, the business meetings that turn into chit chat. Once they become non-productive, then's the time to walk away from them. And in sort of larger teams, often that is waiting to be told what to do, or this happens where people are wasting time because they're not as clear on their roles and responsibilities or what to do next. Matt talked really, really well earlier on about that his teams help each other. So when they're done with their work, they go and help their colleagues until all tasks for the day are done. So yeah, that's you can go into that in more detail on the attachment. So we'll move on again, please, Emily. So we have got some tools at AHDB to help people actually manage their time. So this is a whiteboard, it's a weekly planner. It allows you to delegate tasks, allocate them to a particular person and tick them off when they're done. It also includes a little section for team notices and short tasks where it just allows you to put tasks in on the board where if people have got just a few moments, perhaps they're waiting for something else to happen, they know what it is they can go and crack on with to make a difference to the wider team. So if you'd like to order one of these whiteboards, then please use the question box as you've been doing already to type your questions in. And just to reassure you, nobody can see what you're typing. None of the other audience members can see what you're typing. So type the address that you'd like us to post one of these boards to in the questions box, and we will get these to you. These are available to dairy levy payers. We will sort of check your name and address and everything against our database, or alternatively you can contact your local knowledge exchange manager to order one of these. So just to bring things to a close then, we just wanted to pull on a few key messages. So failing to plan is planning to fail. That's one of my favourite sayings. And try and encourage people to think about how they like to organise themselves, but also in a team environment, think about how other people like to be organised. You know, Matt's talked very much about how different people in his team respond to different incentives or they work in different ways. And I think it's really important to recognise that not everybody's the same. So are there any tools that could help? Which tools could work for you? So is it WhatsApp? Is it whiteboards? Is it meetings? Is it, you know, sending videos on phones? Another key message is just ensuring that your team know what their roles and responsibilities are and around that delegation. So I just want to leave you really with one final poll. And this, we perhaps won't necessarily share the results of this one, but Emily, if I can ask you to pull up the third poll. If you had an extra hour in a day, what would you spend that time doing? So would that be paperwork? Would it be more farming? Would it be spending time with the family? Would you catch up on an extra hour's sleep? Perhaps do a leisure activity or a socialize? Or would you actually spend longer doing the same amount of work? So I just encourage people to, I suppose, challenge themselves with what would you do with that extra hour? How would you spend it? And after you've finished on this webinar, perhaps put some thought into how you might be able to gain that extra hour for yourself. And don't forget, an hour a day adds up to 7 hours a week, which, you know, for most people's working careers is nearly a full day. So are people voting, Emily?
Yeah, we've got it's just finished now. I'll just share it quickly.
Yep. Yeah, so spending time with family is just a huge priority for people, and of course time is the only thing that you can't get any more of. So really hope that people can feel empowered to really consider whether there's ways that they can work in a more focused manner to just claw back a little bit of time to spend with the family or to sleep. So back onto the slideshow, we've just got a couple of notices to finish off with.
Hey, Jamie, I just want to put in there, because it's quite an interesting one, because me and Mary have this conversation all the time. Yeah, how she'd want me to spend more time with the kids, and my argument is not that I don't think I know I don't spend enough time, so I'd like more time. But some people beat themselves up on it, yeah, and they think that they're not spending much time with them. But actually, as a farmer, I think with a young family or whatever, I feel like my brother, for instance, he's a graphic designer, yeah, and when he leaves for work in the morning, he can go at 5 o'clock in the morning and get home at 6 o'clock at night every day, and he doesn't see the kids at all. And on weekend, all he wants to do is have his time, because he's worked all week and his head's full of it, you know, and he wants a bit of his time, yeah. But I think as farmers, we actually get the chance to see the kids sometimes before school at breakfast, sometimes at lunchtime if they're young kids, and the wives are home or whatever, partners are home, and after school, after milking, whatever. I tend to think that in this industry, we do actually get to see our kids a lot more than most in other industries. And I constantly say that to Mary, and she might feel like I'm not there for 5 hours in the day, but I probably see the kids more than most others. And I just think it's interesting sometimes to think about that, that you're not actually as bad a parent as you might think you are. Yeah, maybe I'm just convincing myself. I don't know, but yeah.
No, I think that's a good check, and there's lots about farming where I think we absolutely win. I mean, I wouldn't want to do a long commute to work for. I know I work for AHDB, but we live on a farm as well, and you put your wellies on and you're already at work. You don't have to do that journey, and there's lots and lots of pros in terms of time management and not having dead time. And that was a question actually, Matt, that did come up around how do you make sure that your time spent in the car is not dead time?
Well, I make sure that I ring. I constantly am on the phone to any pocket of signal time that I get in Wales, south or north, that I'm on the phone. And the first thing I tend to do in the morning is ring the shop because it opens at 7, and I ask the girls, whoever's on, everything all right? You happy? Do you need anything? Then I have my messages or whatever coming through. I tend to ring down to see whoever's down when I'm on the way down there, who needs me first, how I'm going to plan my day, sort of thing, to try and get back home. I'll probably have a phone call off Mary same time. So there's a lot of phone calls, and then I'll probably ring a friend or someone on the way home in the evening, or I ring my cousin because he makes me laugh, and I get home laughing in the car. So it's not dead time, it's what you make it. Or sometimes I listen to a podcast or I'd listen to the radio. It just depends what mood. But one thing I think is really important is music. I listen to a lot of music, and it puts you in a good mood. It's feel good, and it's important because when it's pissing down with rain and you've had a nasty morning, you've milked the cows, one of them's you've had it all over your head and all the rest of it, and then you're going for a 4-hour journey. You want to make yourself feel better, and music's massive in that for me.
So that came up at an AHDB open day I was at yesterday. It was on lean management, and they were talking about the Japanese connection with lean management and how in Japan the workforce is part of their culture that they sing together before they start a shift, and how important that is in the kind of feel good and focus and motivation. So
because going back to family time, we have Alexa. We have an Alexa in the kitchen, and I come in the morning to Mary's. And Mary gets frustrated with this, but I come in the morning at 7 o'clock, and I will tell Alexa to play something really loud, and the kids will all run downstairs and dance in the kitchen, and that's massive for me. Like that, really, Mary will come down going mad, but that's family time as well because the kids are all downstairs. It gives you a bit of an uplift before you go again, type of thing. You might leave going mad in the house with 3 kids dancing, but I've had a great time and I'm out the door.
It's not your problem anymore then, is it, man? Funny.
But it's just something to lift you up,
Yeah, and those things will be different for everyone, but it's really important to fit into the day. Fab. Right, so if you're farming in Wales, you'll know about Farming Connect. We've got a couple of updates from Farming Connect. So the skills application window is opening from the 3rd of January to the 28th. So just remind everyone that if they want training courses, etc., to get their applications in. Don't forget about the e-learning courses that are available all the time. There's some really excellent ones on there. So if we can move on a slide. And another one. So for more information about Farming Connect support, then please do contact your local Farming Connect development officer. I'm sure that most people farming in Wales will know who they are, but if you're watching again on YouTube, you can always pause and zoom in on those contact numbers. So just to wrap things up then, huge thank you to Matt. Thanks so much. It's really been a pleasure talking to you. We've had loads of questions coming in the questions box, so thanks very much to everyone for those. And Matthew, that's a full credit to you that, you know, what you've been talking about has really resonated with the audience, so thank you. On an AHDB front, then, your feedback is really, really important to us. So in addition to the fact that you will get sent an evaluation form following this webinar, we would love to hear how you found today. Hopefully we found it useful, and have got a bit of food for thought then, shall we say, for you to take back into your own businesses. But in addition to the feedback specifically on this webinar, just want to highlight that at AHDB you will have an opportunity to have your say on how your levy is spent. So you'll be able to register to vote soon. It's really important. You will need to register in order to have your vote. So look out for further communication about that, but we're expecting that vote to take place in the spring. And you know, we do really care about how you want your levy spent. It helps keep us on track, so please do take the time to have your vote. And I think it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for your questions. We hope that it's been interesting, and hopefully we'll see you at either Penllech or another strategic dairy farm in your neck of the woods before long. Thanks very much.